hair loss is very common, especially in men, which is why it's so confusing to think that it's so stigmatized. But it is, and our next guest understands that well. Chris Schroder is a journalist and author. His new humorous memoir is called Headscape: How a Bald Guy Replanted His Hair and Restarted His Life. Hi, Chris.
Good morning. How are you doing, Molly?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining us. Congratulations on this book. Why did you decide to write it?
Well, I was a bald man for 30 years, and believe it or not, my barber talked me into going to Istanbul, Turkey to get hair transplant surgery, and I moved 5,000 follicles from here to here. And when I came back, so many people wanted to know more about it, and I realized that it was very easy, very affordable, and I realized I could help other people about this subject because men, believe it or not, don't like to talk about being bald.
I believe anything you'd say if it starts with men don't like to talk about. Follow it with just about anything. Okay, so here's the thing with hair loss. It's so common. Did you struggle with it? Was it emotionally hard on you to be bald?
It was. I actually had my best hair day in 7th grade, and then in 8th grade, I started to lose it and lost it in more ways than one, but my hair started to recede. And so many men have male pattern baldness. It tends to be genetic, but not just among European and Northern European people. It's also among many Africans and also South Americans and Middle Eastern men. It becomes genetic. And what we found is that the hair follicles have their own DNA. The DNA on the hair on the side is different than the hair on top. And so it has great impact when it mixes with testosterone.
What is embarrassing about it? Why won't guys talk about it, especially if it's so common and so many experience it?
Well, I'm sure there are a lot of men who are not concerned about being bald. In fact, some, like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, he actually shaves his hair because he doesn't like the way his hair looks. But I think most men, particularly me, became a little bit ashamed of the fact that my hair was just leaving. I sort of felt like a tree that was dying at the top and leaves were falling off every day. And it happened right before me. And I went from, as I said in my book, Headscape, from bold to bald and back again. So I felt very self-conscious. I never liked looking at myself in a mirror. I hated the way I looked in photographs. I only looked at the bald head I had and walking by storefronts. And it was something that bothered me for decades.
Is this about vanity, would you say?
I think it's a lot about vanity, self-perception, security, but it's also about health. And I think a lot of us are concerned about how we look or how we feel in different areas. I know your show has a lot of subjects about healthcare and different subjects, but a lot of it is internal and our own self-perceptions. But what I found out is that it's really easy to change my hair and to transplant to the top of my head. And in doing so, I felt so much more secure. This was the person I thought I would be when I grew up. That bald guy that I saw in the mirror, that was not the me I knew or expected to be living with.
Has it changed your personal life? Do you get more positive feedback about your looks? More interest do you feel now that you have hair again?
Well, it is amazing. What I thought I would come back to, I went to Istanbul to get the transplant surgery, and my barber took me there because he knew the surgeons. And I thought I would come back to America and everybody would say, "Oh, look at your hair transplant. Look at all the hair you have on top of your head," because I've been bald for so long. But hardly anyone could figure out what happened. They all looked at me and tried to figure out why I looked so different. Some people said, "Oh, did you get LASIK surgery, or did you lose a lot of weight or get a facelift?" But everyone said the same thing. "You look great. You look 20 years younger," but they couldn't figure out why.
Interesting. I think that's fascinating. Why Istanbul? Why didn't you have this surgery in America? Do we not have that available? Is it just cost prohibitive?
It's available in almost every country, particularly in America and Canada, but Canada is the most expensive country on the planet to get it. America is the second most expensive. Turkey happens to be the most affordable, and that's because doctors gathered there and started doing a lot of advanced research 30 years ago, and they became very competitive. And so you can actually get hair transplant surgery there for $1,000 or $2,000, whereas in America, it may cost you $10,000 or $12,000. So a trip, medical tourism to Istanbul, Turkey, you get the finest doctors who have the most experience for the least amount of money, and you get to spend 3 or 4 days in a cool city and check it all out.
There's a lot of positives there. Really quick, I was fascinated to read that you felt the decision to receive the hair restoration saved your life. How so?
Well, it helped me in my sales because when I walk into a sales meeting, I often sell to women who own PR firms in their 30s and 40s. And in my own mind, I thought I was hearing them say to themselves when I walked in, oh, here's an old and bald guy. But how it saved my life was when you go through the surgery, you spend a lot of time afterwards sending photographs to your doctor. I didn't like looking at myself. I didn't like taking photographs of myself, but I had to with my doctor. And over the course of 30 to 45 days, I noticed something different happening on my body. I noticed a spot on my shoulder starting to develop. I would never have noticed that before, but I noticed it and I called my other doctor and he sent me right into a dermatologist. Turned out I was developing melanoma and they found it in 2 spots on my body. And so because I had hair transplant surgery and was forced to look at my body and to chart my progress, I saved my life.
Interesting. It was fascinating talking to you today. Thank you so much for opening up, for being vulnerable and sharing your story.
Thank you, Molly. I hope to help more men and the 15% of women who also get hair transplant surgery every year.
Yes, I know it happens to women as well. And we're going to share now about your book. Thanks again for your time.
Thank you.
And you can find Chris Schroder's book. It's called Headscape on Amazon or his website at headscape.me.